Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Brady. I'm here with Amit Bendov, who is the CEO of Gong in Israel. Amit, good to see you. I know last time we met, one of the things we were discussing was Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and what was happening with the Supreme Court. Now I'm catching you after a tragic week, of course, with the Hamas attack on Israel. Just curious what the sentiment is in your company. I know you don't speak for the whole business community, but how are you doing?
I think I can speak for the entire company and the country from people. This has been like the worst week that we've experienced. Most people say since the Holocaust. Like the devastation, the blow, and the cruelty, just reminding people, sure, this was like one day versus like 5 years in the 1940s, but in terms of the feeling and the sentiment, so 1,300 people were killed, there are 200 hostages, there are 3,000 people wounded, 100,000 refugees fled from the border towns. This is like a 10 million people country. Yeah. So there isn't a person who doesn't know at least one person. This week has been like very sad funerals, missing people. So it's a shock and sadness. That's the sentiment right now.
You know, one of the things that we spoke about in the past was this enthusiasm for creating almost a regional hub, you know, taking the sort of technology expertise that's been developed in Israel and spreading it out to the region through these regional ties that were being formed. What happens now, do you think?
It's a great question. I think that's what's tragic about this blow, because a lot of people in Israel, not everybody, and a lot of people on the Palestinian side just want to live their lives, get prosperity, the economy. There's so much potential. The Gaza Strip could have been like Singapore, right? It's on the beautiful Mediterranean. It could be like a tourism, like a lot of technology collaboration. What Hamas did this week is trying to murder the hope, because this was like in a week, just a week prior, like Israel opened more working permits, like more funding to do all the things that which you would think that a rational organization, doesn't matter, maybe like, you know, ideologically they're extreme fundamentalists, but there's pragmatism and responsibility for your people. They launched this attack, which now will bring more devastation and unfortunately, a lot of the kibbutzes, which is like the villages across the border, were some of the most liberal people that are employing people from Gaza, and that's what they shot. They were trying to shoot the hopes for peace. There's like, although I can't prove it, but we're on the verge of signing a U.S. brokered accord with Saudi Arabia, right? Which would like transform the region in a way that would bring a lot more prosperity to Palestinians, to Israelis, to people like across the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And Hamas, possibly with backing of Iran and Hezbollah, just that was like too much for them to bear, and they chose to bring devastation. Like,
do you think the dream is dead? I mean, or delayed? What? Hard to say.
I think delayed. I'm an optimist and never lose hope. I know that most people it just doesn't make sense to see all this devastation, invest resources in such to say non-productive is a euphemism, like terrible directions. And hopefully when if these factors are removed, there'll be more prosperity. I think it's definitely like a major blow, and there'll be a pause.
What about the Israeli economy itself? I mean, you were expressing concerns previously about the domestic politics. How are you feeling about the economy now?
Not great either. So it's definitely like even like before this event, which now will be like tremendous costs. Like it definitely, war costs money, right? And refugees and definitely the economy slows down. But even before that, the policies of the government they're dealing with like nonsense, right? They're not, instead of like preparing for a rainy day, they're dealing with, what should be the logo of the Israeli library? Like, who cares? Versus like preparing like schools for a work in emergency road. A lot of the budget went to like non-productive areas for like coalition instead of like investing in. They cut the science Ministry of Science budget and moved more for religion. Definitely, there's the macro climate, which isn't great. There's a government that doesn't allocate the resources in the right direction. And now there is this, right? So overall, the local economy is taking a major setback.
War has a way of mobilizing support, of course, and I think it's certainly been a false narrative around who's to blame. There's no question Hamas is to blame for this horrific attack. But what is the support like for Benjamin Netanyahu, since there was certainly protests prior to this event?
It's complex. The protests are out the window. Like the strongest protesters, people who are like labeled as scum of the earth or anarchists, are now like volunteering. They're the first to fight. They're first to volunteer amidst fairly dysfunctional government function. Like at least in the first 10 days, they're in total shock. There is yearning for the prime minister to say, I'm responsible, I got this, right? It's me, and I will take it from here, which we haven't heard. So that's causing like a lot of upset. Hopefully, it doesn't turn into clashes. Right now, there's tremendous unity. The resolve and the volunteers of citizen action is just awe-inspiring. Just if there is one positive, it's like the citizens are taking like actions to their hands, where the government is leaving a lot of gaps.
I'm curious. So you said Prime Minister Netanyahu, when you say I'm responsible, obviously it's responsible for the response to this attack. That's not happening, because we've certainly seen a response from Israel.
No, not the response. I mean, like there was like this whole, this was like a major fiasco on multiple levels. Like, strategically, they're like, not just it's not the only government. There are like a few comments. There is a belief that Hamas, although they have like they say that our aim is to kill the Jews and destroy Israel, right? Hardly a compelling vision, but maybe that's just politics. And they're, in the end, if we give them funding and allow them to develop, they'll act as a rational player. They did not, right? So that's one. So they're not deterred. The military was understaffed, so major military failure to one of the most technologically advanced militaries in the world, and all the government systems didn't function to this day. Like there's no like treatment of just today. There's like treatment of the hostages. 200 people didn't get a call from the government. Their families, the refugees, just total disarray. So that's where people say, the chief of staff, the military says, I'm responsible for this failure. We're going to make this right. That's what people didn't hear.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I hear a lot of analogies to 9/11, which is understandable given the scope and the surprise nature of the attack. But 22 years have passed, and there's certainly a lot of lessons in how the U.S. responded to 9/11. Do you think those lessons are being absorbed by Israel right now in its response?
I sure hope so. This definitely is like a 9/11 or Pearl Harbor. Just although you can't really compare, just relative to the size of the population, it's like 10 9/11s. So it's like number of people that died. So just everybody's impacted. I'm not sure that the learning is still there. I sure hope so. But I mean, right now we're in the middle of like an escalation, right? That of a response and counter response. But we hope that when it's all said and done, there'll be learning and better systems.
What Give me some sense. You're an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur with a global business, obviously not just in Israel. Is this impacting any of your plans or ability to operate in terms of what you were planning to do with Gong?
It is not. It is not. So we're taking measure, I would say, like on an operational level, we're taking measure like of understanding like who's impacted, what can we do. We have business continuity plans. We have people in other countries that are working. But this is operationally, I think, strategically, what Hamas is a terror organization, and what they want is to terrorize. It's not the military. Yeah, they kill soldier and had like a nice military success, but they slaughtered civilians, mothers, babies, and posted it on social media, which the sole purpose of that is to terrorize people.
Yeah.
To get us to stop what we're doing, and we will not stop, because we stop, they win, they will not win, right? So we can't let that happen, and no matter what, our business will not slow down, and will not we will definitely overcome.
I mean, one of the things last week, a lot of the focus, of course, was on the tragedy of what happened to the people of Israel. A lot of the attention has shifted now to what's happening in Gaza. Can you give me some sense of, again, whether it's public sentiment or your own sentiment as to what the end game, has to be here for a resolution?
I don't know. So first, I personally feel for the people in Gaza right now, most of them have nothing to do with terrorists. They've been, I think, taken hostage by Hamas. Although they have their supporters in there, it's not totally hostage. But most people just want to live their lives and are miserable right now. They're over 1 million people in Gaza right now have been like evicted. Some other dead people, injured. So it's very tragic. I'm not sure what the end game is. There's one thing that's clear, that Hamas cannot be there. Like, Israelis would not accept. It will not. Entire communities were razed, like people dead, burnt. All the houses are burnt, scorched earth. So, and for Israel to return, like, Hamas cannot be there. They've proved that they're not kind of a pragmatist. They're ISIS, right? So it's like Al Qaeda. It's what happened in Bin Laden. That's the thing. After that, Israel definitely like has zero appetite to occupy Gaza. Like, it's like just get in, hopefully take these people out and establish something else, maybe like the Palestinian Authority or someone else. I'm not sure that they have it figured out. Obviously, I don't know. But we hope someone more rational that wants like the betterment of their own people, because every time they've been launching like rocket attacks in the past few years, over a couple of years, and every time it's a step backward for the people. Like, every time the Palestinian tragedies, like every war, they get less. They start one and they get less and less and less. And I'm concerned, like, what's next, right? There's always like people in Gaza saying this is a second Nakba. It's like a second tragedy, right? Which is like, it is. I just don't know what they're thinking when they're launching this attack, right? It's not the people. It's like Hamas, which is like ISIS, that is like launching, and they know that, we're not going to send them flowers.
Any other message that you have, Amit, especially to a global business audience that's now concerned about a wider regional conflict and the impact that's going to have at a time when there's other conflicts clearly going on in the world? See, even my dog's upset.
Yes, I think we need to like take a zoom out and understand. You saw that the US put sent like 2 aircraft carriers. The whole fleet is here, airplanes, supplies, which is unprecedented. Even though Israel is capable of defending itself across 3 or 4 fronts. But this is a global clash, right? Between definitely like Iran, that is trying to flank Israel with the Hezbollah from Lebanon and Hamas from the Gaza Strip, in response to the potential Saudi accord. Some people say it's like maybe like China, Iran, and Russia like in the background, although I don't think that they have initiated this, but this is kind of the axis of people. And that's like who control the Middle East with all the resources, like US or Russia, China, and Iran, that have been like making progress. It also like detracts people from the issues in the Ukraine. So some people see it as just a continuation of the same thing, that a lot of people are paying the price for this right now. So people think this is a global war between people who want like peace and people who just want to start fires.
Yeah, well, certainly a conversation will be continued, and our hearts go out to everyone involved. So thank you so much for joining us, especially during such a difficult time. Thanks, Amit.
Thank you, Diane.